Now I have with me Madam Kamala, who is one of the prominent faces in the world of finance, which is still seeing very gradual improvement in participation from women, but she is doing a fabulous job of the Chief Regulatory Officer here at BSE. So Kamala, thank you very much for joining us on ET Now today at BSE Day.
Thank you, Ajay, for this opportunity. Happy to associate with you in this program.
Great. I was very impressed to know that, even now on ET Now, we are always taking this, message forward and encouraging a lot of women to participate in the in the world of finance. But it is very gradual, though there is progress being made. But you chose to, join the world of finance, stock market, regulatory 2-3 decades earlier. So you've seen the entire journey. You've also seen the journey and evolution of Indian investor. In today's dynamic, world, how do you think the life of an investor has actually changed versus last few years?
So if I just recall 3 decades ago, life of investor was very, very different. Not many people knew what stock market meant. People also thought that stock market was for very select few. It's a closed door kind of a market and things like that. Accessing market was not at all easy in those days because size mattered the most. But with all this technology coming into picture, our markets are now at the doorsteps or at fingertips of the investors, because today you can trade even using the mobile technology. So I think we have seen a great transformation in terms of making our markets accessible to retail investors. And it's a tremendous journey, because in those days, people used to really scout for a broker, or if you were not part of a Mumbai as a center, then you would really find it difficult to even connect to a broker, forget about investing. Today, everything is at your doorstep. That's clearly a transformation which technology, regulators and stock exchanges together have collaborated to make it happen.
Excellent. In fact, yes, there is a transformation happening in the participant side as well in the market. Earlier, the 2 dominant players were the FIs and the DIs, but now we are seeing a third dominant front emerging, which is the retail investor. And we are seeing the data is on the table in terms of addition of retail investors and new guys coming in the market. But when we interact with this bunch, sometimes we get a sense that making short-term money, that is one objective. Then there is the other objective of making wealth or creating wealth. How would you, with your rich experience and of course the role which you are playing, what will your message be to both the pockets of the participants which are joining in now?
As you rightly said, Ajay, market has different constituencies. In the marketplace, there are arbitrageurs, there are speculators, there are investors. All 3 are important components, and nothing is superior or nothing is inferior. It's just that the mindset required for dealing with each category is different. And for speculation, the mindset that you need to have, the psychology that is needed, and the awareness about what is happening around you is quite different from an investor who once in a way, parks his money in the asset class that he is looking for. So the psychology required there is different. What is the objective or your goal for which you are entering the market becomes very, very important. And arbitrageurs, as you know, are looking at price differential between the marketplaces. So all 3 constituencies together make a marketplace. And as a retail investor, if you are entering, you should be clear in your approach. As an investor, what is that I am looking at? Usually what we have found in our experience is, investor at the time of entry thinks that he is entering the market for an investment and a reasonable return and for a mid-term and long-term outlook. Somewhere down the line, they get distracted and get tempted to look at day trading where they are not empowered and equipped. No, they are getting into that area. So that is where the challenges are. So I would advise all investors entering to first know what is the bucket in which they are entering, and also the time horizon that they are looking at when they enter the market.
So we talk about KYC, it is also know yourself first also.
That's right.
Okay, great. Kamala ji, also, we have to give, the due where the regulatory environment deserves. Some amazing job done by exchanges such as yours, and of course the regulator in making this, the entire market ecosystem very transparent and a very well regulated one. How have the disclosure standards, regulatory standards evolved, and is helping the participants now in your view, because you are actually leading that role here at BSE?
Again, it's a very, very valid question. See, in Indian market, regulation and development of ecosystem is seen as a collaborative exercise, and it's never seen as a competitive or a regulator versus regulated kind of an approach. And to really take on board all the contributions that have been made by the regulators, regulator is actively involved in cleaning up the ecosystem, developing the ecosystem, introducing newer products for various customer category. If you have recently heard about SEBI chairperson constantly talking about sachetization of SIPs, that goes to prove that all of us in the ecosystem believe that this marketplace is meant for investors, and we need to reach out more and more to include more investors coming from across regions of the country.
And lastly, before I hand it back to my colleagues in the studio, I want to talk about technology in the role of technology. Sharp and very high quality technology being adopted by exchanges like BSE, some awesome work being done. Then of course the technology adoption at the user end, which is the participants. How is that evolved, and how is that making the life of an investor much more easier, and at the same time putting safeguards in place at the regulatory end as well?
So if I go back to early 90s, it was scarcity of information that was bothering the investor community. The relevant information was not available equally to all people, and level playing field did not exist. Today, in 2024, the scenario has turned around, and too much of bombardment of information is happening to investors from authentic sources, from unauthentic sources, from unauthorized sources. So the grapples of investors in the erstwhile era were different, and grapples of investors today are different. And to just briefly touch upon the regulatory disclosures, I think today the information about all the listed entities is available to investor on par with any other category of investor, and all key material events that are taking place or financial results, everything is coming to investor on time. It's just that investor today needs to be more guarded in terms of what is the reliable source of information and what is not. There are enough number of influencers who are coming. Whether they are authorized or not is something that investors have to really apply their mind. So now I am really concerned that we need to equip our investors to distinguish between what is authentic information and what is just a rumor or a trap that is being laid by unwarranted elements in the market. You must have seen, using AIs, even the prominent KMPs and managing directors of stock exchanges are being misused. Logos of the exchanges, the faces of the MDs and the voices of MDs are being misused to communicate as though they are promoting and recommending stocks. So I would urge investors to be careful on what they rely on and what they should not rely on.
Great, that's a very valid point. That's a very valid concern which you have brought forward. Anisha, with that, I'd like to hand it over to you for market closing. That was Kamala ji talking to us about the regulatory environment we are operating in, the role of exchanges and regulators, and more so how investors themselves can equip better and become a much more informed investor and capable to navigate the dynamic market we are living in right now.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.